Good morning, y'all. Um, this is going to be part two to the torn veil and a little recap. Um, I left off when, I slammed the front door to the apartment after, everybody else has went downstairs. My son, Cameron, my uncle, my aunt, my cousin, and if we would have ran down those stairs that I could not see. I mean, it was pitch black, smoke bellowing in. I'm standing there with Desiree, 9, and my son Brandon, that was 3, who was absolutely silent. He didn't say anything. If we would have ran down those stairs, we'd been dead. I could not tell the stairs had collapsed outside the front door of the apartment. We would have been dead. I really think, now think back to the dream. And if you haven't watched part 1 to this, please do. It will explain everything. I'll try to link them together somehow. I'm still learning this YouTube thing. But anyway, I think in the dream, when the little girl, the angel, helped me out of that burning house trailer, that burning little house that was being engulfed in flames, and I was fixing to walk towards the railroad tracks instead of the forked road, she started screaming, "Don't go that way, don't go that way." To me, that was a metaphor for don't go down those stairs. You see what I'm saying? The connection here? Don't go down those stairs. Don't walk out that door. I think they're connected. No, I know they're connected. Sometimes you just know what you know, as my Aunt Mary always has said. So I'm going to try to read a little bit more of this without it being a part 3. And see where it goes. If I can find my glasses, I will do so. Sorry, folks. Okay. Let me see where I'm going to put y'all. Okay. You ready? Alright. Let's get this going. Okay. Okay. I turned around as I held both my baby's hands, and I ran towards the kitchen. There was 2 doors. There was a front door and a back door. Where the back door was located, I reached the door and slowly opened it, only to see the same results as before. The hallway was filled with smoke. I slammed that door shut too. I remember the back door that came into the kitchen. It was a narrow, you walked up a narrow hallway, stairs. Okay. I turned around and led my children to the living room, and I stood there trying to catch my breath. I knew I was running out of time, and quickly asked God to help me get my children out of this death trap. I did not have any fear within me. I knew we were not going to perish. It was just something inside of me. I knew it was going to be okay. After a short rest, I remained holding onto the baby's hands and ran back into my children's bedroom. I let go of their little hands and ran straight towards the bedroom window. This was my children's bedroom. It was only a 2-bedroom apartment. I yanked down the mini blinds and threw them down to the floor. I remember seeing my uncle outside rolling around on the grass because of the smoke that he had inhaled. Plus, he had heart problems already. I remember seeing my son Cameron standing beside my aunt and my cousin as they all yelled, "Terry, get out there now. The roof is on fire." And they're pointing towards the roof. The roof is on fire. I'm looking out the window, and above us, the roof is on fire. My little boy, Cameron's looking up at his mom and his siblings, and he can't do anything. I leaned over to open the window, and it happened. Deja vu. The window would not open, and it occurred to me this was just like in my dream I had about a week earlier. God was warning me about the fire. I did not understand it then, but I sure did now. The window had been nailed shut because my children's daddy was scared that they would open the window and fall out from the 2nd story. They kept messing with the window. I remember this. And he was scared they were going to fall out of the window, so he nailed it shut. So now we were trapped, just like in the dream. Everybody's downstairs yelling, get out, the roof is on fire. I leaned over to open the window. Again, still the same results. It was stuck. The window had been nailed. Okay, some of the neighbors were standing below as I helplessly looked down at them through the window. They were telling me to open the window, and I explained to them I couldn't open it. A man got onto another man's shoulders, and they made a human ladder to be able to reach the window. I turned around and glanced into the very scared faces of my children, and I told them that everything was going to be all right. Okay. I knew God was there with us, and we were going to be all right, and soon this would all be just a memory. The man standing on the other man's shoulder outside the window yelled for me to open the window again, and I yelled back through the glass. I couldn't because it had been nailed shut. The man took his fist and busted the window and made a pretty good-sized hole in the window. Without thinking, I started pulling out glass with my hand. Adrenaline was pumping through my veins, and I didn't even know I had ripped my hand wide open. I still have the scar right there. Let me show you. Sorry about this. Right? I don't think you can see it. Where is that camera? It's right here, where I just busted out the glass. I didn't care. I had to get my kids out of there. I started pulling out the glass. The man and I quickly removed all the glass from the window, and he yelled, "Give me the baby." I turned around and grabbed Brandon and handed him to the man. Brandon was lured to safety. 2 children out, 1 to go. "Now the girl," the man shouted. I quickly signed to Desiree to sit on the window edge, on the little windowsill, and the man would help her down. I brushed away all the shattered glass with the same hand that was bleeding. I didn't even know I was bleeding. Hang on just a second. I lost my place. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, here we go. I didn't even realize I was bleeding as we're busting out the glass. It was just total chaos. Desiree was scared. I brushed away all the shattered glass from the window frame with my hand before she sat down. I didn't want her cutting her little bottom. She acted so brave, and she sat down on the window frame. The 2 men quickly took her and lured her to safety. I smiled because I knew all my children were okay. The man looked at me and yelled, "Now you, hurry up. The roof is going, and it's going fast." I told him to move and that I would help myself down the wall to safety. I turned around and looked back and realized that nothing, I mean nothing, I had in that apartment meant anything to me. The only thing that mattered was my children, and I thank God in heaven they were safe. The men had moved away from the window, and I turned back around to face the window as I stood there in my bare feet, and I was standing in glass. I exhaled deeply and bent down and hung one of my legs out the window as I sat there on the windowsill. I turned around and put my other leg out the window, and then I slowly slid out the window. I stopped as both hands were holding onto the windowsill. I stopped as I held onto the window's edge, and I looked back into the apartment, and I said, "Satan, you didn't get me this time." And I smiled, and I let myself fall into the bushes. It was total chaos as I reached the ground. I yelled for my children, and I glanced up at the roof that was on fire. I could not believe all this was happening. A young man walked up to me and said, "You're bleeding bad." I looked down at my hand, and it was bleeding. I didn't even realize it. The man took off his white t-shirt and wrapped it around my hand to stop the bleeding. The amazing thing is, I never even felt the deep cut in my hand. I yelled for my children once again, and then I turned around to thank the young man who wrapped his shirt around my hand. He was gone. He vanished in a heartbeat. I'd never seen him again. Was he an angel? Or was he a neighbor? by whoever. He was sent by God. He sure was. I got my children and I ran to my papa's apartment that was in the same complex. Papa rushed us to the hospital where I needed stitches in my hand and a lot of glass pulled out of my feet. The doctor told me if the cut in my hand would have been only a hair deeper, that I would have needed major surgery. I am smiling as I sit here looking down at the scar on my hand from so many years ago. This scar reminds me of how God watches over me and my children each and every day of our lives. Let me tell you another miracle here about the fire. Most of my neighbors, including my aunt and uncle who lived next door, lost almost everything. My Aunt Phyllis had pictures that melted from the intense fire, literally melted into the wall. This is how bad that fire had gotten. A fire God tried to warn me about in a dream, but I did not understand it at the time. There was fire above my apartment in the attic and below me and next to us, but it never entered my apartment. I have a velvet Jesus painting, which is right. I still have it to this day. I have a velvet Jesus painting that belonged to my granny for many years. When she passed away, it was given to me to keep. The painting was hanging above my living room wall in that apartment. Walls now that was covered in black soot. This is amazing. Listen to this. All around this large painting was a white, untouched, white circle, I say about 10 to 13 inches, completely around this painting. It was completely untouched. I never had to clean it. A picture of my granny was also laid down, face down on the ground, also untouched. Also, the Bible on the table, I never had to clean it. It had no soot on it. Do not tell me that was a coincidence or a fluke. That was God's way of... It was a sign. I can picture in my mind angels holding back the flames from entering my home. As I do this, I still feel blessed. I also want to thank all the heroes that night that was sent by God to help us get out of the raging fire. My Aunt Phyllis, my Uncle Claude, who came to our rescue for this. I love you both so much. Aunt Phyllis, I know you're in heaven, and you too, Uncle Claude. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting Cameron out of the fire. I also want to thank the men who helped us out the window, and also for the Pasadena Fire Department for putting out the blaze. Also, a special thank you to my young man who wrapped the t-shirt around my hand. Man, angel, I don't know. And my pawpaw for rushing us to the hospital that night and for being there for us. My whole family was frantic, and this is one of the very rare times that my family acted like a family, and I remember all of them rushing into that hospital up at Bayshore. But anyway, premonitions, signs, and wonders. The good Lord works in mysterious ways. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Keep on keeping on, and God bless.